very empowered by the mute button. Never send a child unarmed with information onto the internet, because people are so offended, especially when a woman is prepared to be vulnerable or outspoken in public.
Yeah. Do you walk into a room and do people get scared?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good way. When you started the I Weigh movement, you said that you had enough of the shame that you would see online, especially towards women, that you'd had enough of it. And I think that people have reached that capacity. And then recently in a podcast, you mentioned just about, I suppose, the landscape at the moment. There's a lot of anger out there. What do you think of the online world versus the offline world at the moment in this particular space and time?
I think, as ever, the online world feels like a very exaggerated version of what we see online. And so that is a really tricky thing to deal with. I'm sorry, I'm just being distracted by what's happening in the kitchen. I'm going to move you away here.
What's happening in the kitchen? James
is being so loud. So I just can't concentrate. Okay, I'm glad you can't pick it up though. That's good. So look, online is always so much more amplified than what is happening out in the real life world. And I think it's also a space where people tend to vent all of their feelings. And, they take, some people are very justified and validated in the things that they express rage over. But some people are just there to troll. Some people are just there who are having a bad day at work or a bad day at home, and they need somewhere to direct that rage, and they direct it online. And so I think it can be an incredibly toxic place. Social media is so important and vital to all of the activism that's been happening in the last couple of years, especially the way that we've seen people organize and mobilize during this moment of civil rights that has re-risen, thank God. And so I think it's an amazing thing, but I also think that it's important to limit your intake. So don't take a complete break from it, check in now and again, but I think it's very important to make sure that what you are seeing Michaela Cole recently described it as, Twitter can flatten your brain. And so I think that it's important just to have safety guidelines around how much time you spend online.
I think that's definitely it. Michaela speaks wise words, but you use your platform much more than I suppose everyone does. I think when you kind of gain the control, you take back the control of what you can do with that space. But you do mention there's a lot of people just there just to kind of rile people up. How do you, as a person, as a real person, Jameela, how do you cope with those arguments that you're just going to hit a wall with?
I feel very empowered by the mute button. I think it's one of the greatest things that has ever been invented for the online world. So I mute, I block, I delete, I repeat. I very much so believe in self-defense of the mind. We're taught about self-defense of the body, but not how to protect ourselves and our emotions. And so I'm very careful about what I expose myself to in the world. And so whether that means people who trigger me about my body or my appearance or my lifestyle or my relationship or my family life, or if it's people who trigger me because they are putting bigotry and hatred out into the world, I will check in on people whose views I don't agree with, because I don't want to exist in an echo chamber, but I do not give people access to me, because I think that that's really bad for your soul and your mental health. And it doesn't matter how strong you are or perceive yourself to be. All of this goes in and it hurts, and it's not natural. It's not what human beings were born and have been developed to sustainably cope with. So I'm very protective of myself online.
You are protective of yourself, but you've also been very open publicly about issues. It's kind of a juxtaposition there, because you have been very open about things you've gone through when you were younger, eating disorders. I mean, I've known you for years, and there's so many things I never knew from the outside. From the first time I met you, Jameela, you're the most confident, beautiful girl, and I only in the last few years, when you've spoken out about things, I had no idea the stuff that you were dealing with. But how scary is it to kind of put that in the public space? Because as you say, you need to be protective, but then also you kind of have to give yourself in order for change to happen.
Yeah, well, it is tricky and it is scary to put yourself out there, because people are so offended, especially when a woman is prepared to be vulnerable or outspoken in public. Like, we go out of our way to silence her. And, I've been talking recently about how, because they can't take us out and kill us anymore, they discredit us. So they kill our reputation, they kill our credibility. So discredit is the new death, I think, of an outspoken woman. So it is a big risk. But for me, I'm doing it because I grew up without any transparent role models. I grew up without role models who told the truth about their lifestyles or their backstories, or who gave me hope of how I can cope through something I'm going through. And they never made mistakes in public. And I feel very passionately about being vulnerable and being the anti-celebrity in that way, and being willing, refusing to be forced to be the perfect woman. I refuse. I'm a fallible human being. I try not to make mistakes. I don't do it on purpose. But when I slip up, I refuse to then be cast away forever. Human beings are capable of change. Most human beings are capable of change and decency and doing better. And so I believe that young people in particular need to see that you shouldn't be afraid of putting your hands up or admitting to your own ignorance, as long as you are as long as you are consistently trying to do better. And I think that we need to honor that a bit more. I think the idea that this like moral superiority obsession of the last couple of years is stopping people from asking really important questions. And that scares me, because knowledge is power and knowledge is evolution. And the fact that when women aren't allowed to criticize other women, otherwise they're not feminists, that's not real. Men criticize men all the time. They're not considered to be anti all men. You know, we have to be more open to criticism. We have to be less afraid of it. And I think that when we criticize people, we should look at it as a criticism, as a call out. And we don't have to pull any punches, but we don't have to say that they are never allowed to re-enter society unless they have done something that is actively, truly either illegal or so harmful that they could never come back from it.
You have this space, which is very powerful, to put your voice out and to use it, and you use it in an incredible way. But with that comes responsibility, Jameela. And you are a person, like, is there ever days where you go, this is a lot for one person to take? The absolute, oh my God, I love you so much, to that I absolutely hate you so much. It's a lot for one person to take. And I know you have a great team that work around you, but it is a space that you've created yourself.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Just how do you cope with it?
Not very well all the time, Laura.
Great, she's real.
Yeah. Most of the time I'm okay, and I'm in a better situation than most activists because of the fact that I'm privileged. I can also, a lot of activism is done for free. And so I think that's why I'm lucky to be able to afford from my other work to be able to do all of this and to have access to therapy and to live in a supportive environment with good people. So I think I have an easier time than pretty much all other activists in the world. But it is definitely hard. And with this big platform comes so many more voices of pile on, and so many people just see you as fair game. The other thing that's really interesting is that if you speak out about one thing, people immediately decide you must be an expert on everything and hold you to an impossible standard of omniscience and perfect responsibility, perfect rhetoric. And I think I used to make the mistake of speaking out on things before I fully understood what I was talking about, just because I was being asked on the spot and didn't want to seem like I didn't care. That isn't helpful. It wasn't helpful. It ended up making so much mess and centering me. So I think what I've learned to do is just take a beat and understand where I can be helpful. I mean, my DMs are just full of people saying, can you speak out about this? Can you speak out about that? This is happening in India. This is happening in Yemen. And it's like, I'm only one human being. I'm not effective everywhere. And so I'm learning to try and just pick my lanes, stay in them, and try to actually create legislative change. But I don't mind the pylons when I've made a mistake, but the pylons that come from lies, and I know that you've dealt with this, like rumors, harmful rumors about your personal life, or the way that people frame your personal life. And I love the fact that you stand up against that and always clarify your side of the truth. But the lies are what really bothers me.
You waste a lot of time. If you could use the time clarifying things to actually put that energy into something else, imagine what the world would be.
Yeah. And it's something that we do almost exclusively to women. And I find it so scary and damaging. And the kind of lies that have been told about me, especially in February, and the things that I was linking me to a suicide of someone that I knew and liked very much, that we both cared for very much, which was such an unfair thing to do when I had nothing to do with that, or someone saying that I had Munchausen's, or putting pictures of my disabled family members all over the internet and ridiculing them. That was my February. People telling me whether or not I was queer. There was so much that piled onto me all at once in February that I think that was the first time that I found it really hard to cope, and I felt like very unstable emotionally. and had to like go on medication for the first time for a couple of months just to be able to cope with that. So it's definitely not easy, and it's something that I would never suggest someone gets into unless you have access to some sort of emotional support and also therapy, because activism is lonely, it's hard, and other people don't stick up for you publicly.
You work in an industry that you're constantly calling out, so it must be quite difficult to be working in it as well.
Yeah.
Do you walk into a room and do people get scared?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good way.
people are either in a funny way or in a not funny way, where people, I think, also like the public perception of me is that I'm just on a soapbox screaming all of the time, and that's not true. I'm very much so a human being who just, the only times I get amplified is when I'm speaking out about something controversial. But there's many different facets to my personality, and I think people realize that after a while. But people try to be incredibly hyper vigilant over what they say around me, and I think that's good and interesting to watch. But also, in a funny way, my friends can't talk about the way they look in a negative way around me. Otherwise, as soon as like one of them catches themselves doing it, like talking about wanting to get surgery or something, then they're like, I know, I weigh. So that's the funniest thing, is that no one body shames themselves around me because they can feel my eye roll. Yeah, my emotional eye roll.
The outcome came in the end, though. I think everyone's gone on a journey from, I know myself, the first week I'm like, this is great, I'm so healthy, I'm working out. And then I'm like, oh, I can snack constantly because the fridge is right there. And a lot of people are coming out of lockdown and their body has changed. What would your advice be?
I have no advice. Your body's changed. We've been in a pandemic, and whether or not we're in a pandemic, allow your body to do whatever you have to do. But with the way that COVID has been specifically targeted as like a time for extreme weight loss for women has just been so upsetting. Like the fasting apps, the dieting apps, they're algorithmically turning up much quicker and much more frequently for people who are also online more than they've ever been before. So this is normally the time where they've been like shaming us about our beach bodies. They can't do that because we're not allowed to go to the beach. So now they're shaming us about our pandemic bodies. It's bananas. So I would say, be very careful about who you follow, what you follow. Step away from social media if you find yourself triggered, and do not beat yourself up for what your body looks like during a global crisis. Or even if we're not, I just think this pressure on us to look any which way is so absurd and frustrating, and it's something that we're all still navigating. Stay away from full-length mirrors if they make you feel bad about yourself. I personally have never been someone who can get to body positivity. It's too hard for me because I spent so long hating my body. And body positivity just feels like, like what Lizzo is able to achieve just feels hard for some people because they hate their body so much, and society teaches us all day, every day, to hate our bodies. So sometimes love feels like too much of a stretch. And I personally subscribe to body neutrality, which I think is something interesting for people to invest in, where you don't hate it, you don't love it, you're just not engaging with it. You are deciding every time you hear yourself thinking about it, you shut that thought down, you stay away from long length mirrors, maybe you stay away from the selfies, and you just engage your mind with other nurturing, more interesting thoughts. Follow activists and comedians and writers and social thought leaders online instead of people who make you feel rubbish about the way that you look.
So 2020 has been pretty terrible year in many ways, but from speaking to you, you're very hopeful.
I am. I saw this great tweet that said hindsight is 2020, and I thought that was such a great way to turn that phrase into something so meaningful about this year, is that we are truly being confronted like a mirror with all of our mistakes, environmentally and socially and emotionally. I think that it's been really, and politically, so much has surfaced because we aren't in the chaos of the nonsense. Everything has stilled, and we've been able to see the world that we have created, and it's rubbish. So we need to do better. And it feels like for the first time, everyone is engaging in that fight. And that does give me a lot of hope.
What have you not done that you want to do yet?
What have I not done that I really want to do? You know what? I never know what I want to do until I've done it, because I keep trying all these different things that I've never done before. So I'm writing a book. I guess we'll see how that goes. That's something I've never done before. It'll never be anything that involves moving my body. That's the only thing I know. Action movies, out. I pulled out of an action movie last year because I was like, I just don't really do running. I know that is one thing I will never do.
Bus back in the day, don't.
Those days are over. I'm in my 30s, Laura. So I don't really know. I think my hope truly is to continue on with iWay and to build an education platform for young people where, you know, the schools are failing the kids and the parents don't know what their children are looking at on the internet. So we need some sort of device that no longer just teaches you how to put a condom on a carrot. We need a device that explains social media to you from when you're very young.
I didn't even get that. Do you mean I got taught sex education by a nun? I didn't even get a carrot.
Oh my god.
No carrot.
Exactly. So we need to. The fact that I knew more about igneous rock at secondary school than I knew about consent or eating disorders or Photoshop or any of these different things, mental health. These are the things that we need to teach kids about in school. So I'm working towards a syllabus that would go around the world to be able to at least just start arming young people with the basics of what they're about to go into and teaching parents and teachers how to communicate that with them and to stop being afraid of having these difficult conversations. Because if you don't have those difficult conversations, the kids are going to go out into the world and try and figure it out for themselves with so much misinformation. Never send a child unarmed with information onto the internet.